Hi, I'm Brady Ambler from the Nursery Golf and Country Club. I work under Braden Rogers. This is my mechanical side for the DFS. This portion will be about reels.
In this video I will show you how to grind a reel with the older style grinder to put a relief grind in it. I will be having help from my superintendent Braden Rogers. Part 1 will be taking reels apart. Part 2 will be set up reel for grinding. Part 3 will be grinding reels. The last part will be Part 4, put the reel back together.
Attention warning. Reel maintenance safety for reels. There should be no loose clothing worn that could get stuck in reel while it spins. Wear safety goggles if there are sparks or any potential items that may hit your eyes. Wear dust mask if there is potentially sparks and dust in the air. There should be no jewelry or anything that could potentially get caught in the equipment when working on them. Unplug equipment when touching reels blades if there is a possibility of the reel blades spinning when working on. Hearing protection should be worn when there is loud equipment running or other noises. Footwear with steel toes should be on, considering that there are many possibilities of heavy objects falling on your feet. Anyone with long hair should wear hair protection if it's potentially long enough that it could possibly get caught in reel. Safety is required.
Ricky Green at the nursery. Part 1, taking reels apart. In order for us to grind our reels, we must disassemble our reels in order for us to set it up on the grinder. The first thing we're going to do is take our bed knife bar off. To take the bed knife bar off, I will loosen the two nuts at the back with the springs. Then I will take the bolts out on each side of the reels. When I unscrewed the two bolts on each side, I made sure to keep the washers on the bolts in order of the way I took each washer off, so that when I have to screw everything back together, I will know where each washer has to go on the bolt. Now that I have those bolts unscrewed, I can now then take the bed knife bar off. Now that we have our bed knife bar off, next I will take the front roller off that is used to change the heights. I will loosen the two bolts on the roller that stick out, but will not take them completely out. I will then unscrew the two nuts out that are normally loosened when changing the heights on each side of the reel, but will instead completely take them out. Now that both those nuts are off on each side, I can now take the roller off. Next, I am going to take off the black cover off the frame of the reel that covers where the shaft of the reel connects to the frame of the cutting unit that's on the opposite side of where the hydraulic motor connects. I used a socket wrench with a longer socket so it could reach the bolt to unscrew it quicker. When taking these bolts out, I made sure to keep an eye on these nuts inside of the frame where the bolts screw into to hold the black cover, so that I would not lose them. Now I'll just finish unscrewing the other bolt. Now I am going to take the snap ring out so I can get the spline out of the reel. I am just going to lift up on the one side of the reel so that the spline will fall out so I can get it. This is what the spine looks like. Now we're all finished assembling our reel. Part 2, set up reel for grinding. Right now we are just going to get the reel secured on the grinder for us to get ready for grinding. Now that we have our reel on the grinder, we are now ready to fine tune it and center it so that we can put the relief grind on that we want for each blade. Now how we are centering the reels by adjusting the aluminum silver rod that you see getting pushed up against the shaft of the reel. Right now we are spinning the knob that pushes it in and out. What we are trying to do is push it towards the shaft. Why we are listening to the aluminum silver rod pushing against the shaft of the reel is for consistent noise and feel on each side of the shaft of the reel. When it comes to adjusting reels, it's all about feel with the older style grinder. Once we had the aluminum silver rod pushing towards the shaft enough, we started adjusting the rod so that it goes higher up onto the shaft of the reel with the knob that makes it go up and down. We wanted it so that it just touches the top of the shaft of the reel.
Really close.
Once it felt like and sounded like the aluminum silver rod pushing against the shaft of the reel was the same on each side, we knew we were done. Now I am going to adjust the grinding stone to make sure it's making the right amount of contact that we want to get the relief angle we are looking for. Everyone has their own idea of what they want for their relief angle. What I have read online is the bigger the angle, the longer it lasts for backlapping. But if you take too much, you may wear down your blades and you may have to replace them much quicker. We try to put a relief angle on the blades that will last through the whole season for our backlap. Now that we have it set the way we want it, I will lock the lever that pushes the stone towards the reel's blade. I will then lock the lever that puts the grinding stone up and down. Just going to go over once more with the grinding stone to make sure it's all in tune and making the right contact, just in case it changed after we locked everything up. Okay, looks like we're done with this part then. Part 3, grinding reels. First off, before we start any grinding, I am going to number off all of the blades with a white Sharpie so that when we start grinding the reels, we will know how many blades we grind and what blades to grind. Then, that way, all of the blades are even, having the same amount of meat taken off each blade. Now we are going to do one test grind on the reel to make sure it gives us an even grind all the way across the reel and is not taking too much off the blades of the reel, giving us the relief grind that we want. Now we will just look at the blades of the reel to make sure it's the angle we are looking for and it's not too bad. But we want more of an angle for our relief angle, so we will adjust the grinding stone until we get the relief angle we want. I am now giving the next blade a grind to see if it's the relief grind we are looking for. I am now examining the reel to see if it's the relief angle we are looking for, and the relief grind looks great. Good enough that it will last us throughout the whole season. I then continued to grind the other blades, examining them as I went along to make sure that each blade is getting the same relief grind. After finishing around 2 more blades, I then knew the grinder was set because each blade had the same relief angle. I then continued to grind the rest of the blades of the reel, finishing the grinding of all 11 blades of the reel. Part 4, put reel back together. Okay then, right now I am loosening the bolts that are used to tighten the bed knife closer to the reel. The reason I am doing this is so it will be easier to put the bed knife bar on, because if it is not loosened there will not be much play to put the bed knife bar in. What can happen if you don't loosen these bolts at the back is the bed knife will push up against the blades of the reel and can possibly damage the reel's blades when you're trying to hammer it in, not thinking about the bed knife that's right against the blades of the reel. Loosening the bed bar of the bed knife is a much easier way to put the bed bar back into place. Now I am going to put the bed bar back into the reel. Right now I'm just lining up the bed bar so that it all lines up with all the spots where the bolts and washers go to connect the bed bar in, so it'll be right in its place. Now I am putting the washers back into the right spots. I put a little grease on them so they would stick to the reel and not fall out when I try to screw the bolts back in. And if you notice, our reel's blades can spin with the bed knife bar on, so that means we loosen it just enough then to give ourselves enough play. Right now I am going to screw in the bolts that hold the bed bar in place. I used a flathead screwdriver to push against the washer to line up the washer with the bolts as I try to screw it in, and of course I put the washer in as close as I could, so I would just have to push lightly against the washer to line them up. Now I am just doing the same process to the other side. Then once both sides are all lined up and partially screwed in, I will tighten both sides up with a wrench. Now I will just tighten the nuts on the top of the reel with the springs, but not too tight because we don't want to wreck the springs that help the bed bar absorb bumps. After this part is done, we'll have finished installing the bed bar. Then next I will put the front roller back on. That is really simple to put on. I ain't going to go into too many details for this part because there isn't really any special tricks to putting the front roller back on, other than remembering to tighten the bolts that were loose on the front of the roller and that the roller is centered with the reel. What I mean by the roller being centered is that the tip parts of the roller that are sticking out should be sticking out the same amount on each side of the roller, where the roller connects to the part we adjust the heights. So that way the roller is in the middle of the end pieces that holds the roller in place. Now I will put the black cover on the reel. I will place the nuts back in the other side, then tighten them up with the bolts that hold the black cover in place. The last thing we have to do is put the spline back in, and then stick the snap ring in to hold the spline in place. And that's the end of my video. I would like to thank my superintendent Braden Rogers, aka the Reel Boss, for helping and teaching me how to adjust a grinder for grinding the reel.